Good morning and welcome to Get Real America.
I'm Bill Edwards.
I'm Brittany Brown.
Glad to have you aboard here on Hump Day, where we have, it's a little bit on the cold side outside here, at least for Savannah.
Yes.
The prices have gone up on gasoline by 30 cents a gallon because the state gas tax is back in effect, and we're putting up a fence at City Market, even though fences don't work.
Yes, and we also had some people that are taking offices in Savannah, which is fun. We have a new chief of police.
Yep.
And we also have Roger Moss starting his presidency of the school board. Today will be their first meeting, so that's very exciting. We'll have some footage from that tomorrow to show
And I think he will do Porgy and Bess as when he opens up and raps the gavel at 2 o'clock this afternoon for his first school board meeting officially as president of the school board. And something that we have to do about this, Brittany, is when we elect somebody to the new school board, they ought to be able to take over right away, or at least within a week or two, instead of 6 months later. Jeez.
I think we call that a lame duck session. It's always harmful, I think, when you have, look at the omnibus bill that we just got in a lame duck session. So I think that we should not be allowing people to make those decisions during that time period. Congress should definitely adjourn after elections and then start in January. Take the time off for their holidays, but please do not make any decisions.
Boy, that's the truth. So glad to have you aboard on this Wednesday morning. And one of the things that we're beginning to talk about once again is crime here in Savannah. And that's one of the things that they were this fence thing going up at City Market has something to do with. Yeah,
and here's the thing: they want to make it safer, more family friendly. I like it. I think it's great.
Sure.
However, if the city had control over the crime here and the DA, which we will also be covering later in the show, was doing the right thing and prosecuting criminals, I don't think that City Market would have to make any changes.
No, they wouldn't. You wouldn't have to worry about it because there's one of the establishments that stays open until 3 o'clock in the morning. Well, so what?
It's a tourist town, too.
Exactly.
I mean, people like to stay up late when they're on vacation. I'm just saying. Yeah. And City Market is really fun, especially at night. It's lighted. It's beautiful.
It's a great place. So get crime under control. Maybe the new police chief, Lenny Gunther, who now is the official police chief, has been the interim chief for some time, the last few months. And so we're waiting to see how things are going to change police-wise, but hopefully he is going to get, and that's something also we're going to be discussing with a candidate, with Anthony Burton, who is a candidate for the district attorney's office, on how police are, even though we're not defunding police here, we're actually raising their salary. We actually like our cops, and we treat them well, but at the same time, the morale is a different story.
Yeah, and maybe the new police chief can talk some sense into our new DA. I'm not that hopeful, but, I do think that there are a lot of problems that we're seeing that come from that DA position and why people need to pay attention when they're voting and also know what they're voting for. Yeah. And if you're asking for, criminals to be let out and, their sentences to be reduced, then you're getting what you voted for.
Exactly. And as we always say, might not get the government you want, but you'll always get the one you deserve.
Yes, and I will tell you, we have very important elections coming up in Chatham County.
We
All
do.
of our municipalities are up, and it's going to be big. It makes a huge difference when they're making decisions for the city, and the city is growing like crazy right now.
It is.
Very important decisions to be had this year.
We're talking about all the investments that are being made from South Korea, especially since we're getting this Hyundai plant that is coming in Bryan County, which is right next door to Savannah, and they're going to be hiring 8,400 workers over the course of the next 5 years or so, and they're going to be making these environmentally unfriendly electric cars, but they're also investing, as a South Korean company, it's investing in solar panels that we're going to be making here. There's another company coming in near Statesboro that's going to be supplying glass and things of that nature. So a lot of jobs are coming along. It's a shame they're going to need energy, and we're trying to get rid of energy in this country under the guise of getting more energy.
It doesn't make any sense, Bill. And like I told you, I believe last week, it is not the creation of energy that we're seeing. It's the harvesting of energy, which is no guarantee that we're going to have it.
Exactly. And if you get rid of, and fossil fuels, and I've used the term fossil fuels in quotation marks because geologists discovered a long time ago that these aren't dead dinosaurs.
They're actually considered renewable energy, right?
Yeah, as a matter of fact, it is, because the Earth keeps making this stuff. It is God's gift to us. Fossil fuels are these energy sources that we have that are natural, are the greatest, one of the best gifts that God gave this planet. That natural gas, and we have so much of it, is the cleanest of the fuels, with the exception of nuclear energy, which is the cleanest. It works 24/7, 365 and a quarter. And I say 365 and a quarter because that's how many days it takes to go around the sun, and that's why we add a leap day every 4 years. Thank you very much. And just a little geological information for you there, in case you didn't know. And we have so much natural gas right here. If we ran our cars on natural gas, it costs you about $7 to fill up. You can go about 300 or 400 miles on a tank, as opposed to what you can get out of a electric car now. I was always amused at the Chevrolet ad that their new Silverado said it can go up to 280 miles on a single charge. Ooh, wow.
But what they don't tell you is how long it takes to charge those cars.
That's right. Yeah, the next trick is how long it takes to charge. How long does it take you to fill up at the gas station? 5 minutes? 10 at the most?
Yeah, at the most.
Yeah, 10 minutes. 10 minutes on an electric charge will get you maybe just past the pump or the electric station. And have you noticed the three amigos that got together up there down in Mexico? We got the faux president Joe Bite Me. We have the minister of Canada, that man child, and also we have Obrador. President Obrador of Mexico. They were talking about how all the things they came up with, like 5 or 6 plans that they have here for us to save the world, and talking about energy control and things of that nature, and how they were going to save the planet. Didn't mention drugs whatsoever. Nothing. No mention of fentanyl coming across whatsoever.
Well, those are not the 3 men that I would ask to change the world, if I'm being honest with you.
Well, they're changing the world, all right. It's
not in a good way.
Not the one we want.
Yes.
It just goes to show, when you elect stupid people, this is what happens.
Or people that can be bought and sold. Yeah. I think that's what we're seeing, because it's interesting when the we cut the Keystone Pipeline, yeah. Trudeau was very upset.
Yeah, he was. Well,
it didn't take him long.
All sorts of laws,
yeah.
and regulations, and violations of contracts.
Yep.
Because that was a lot of money that was going to Canada, and right now, if we hadn't, we'd be getting 900,000 barrels a day out of that pipeline. But as it is now, we're getting zero.
Well, it's interesting that his attitude changed so quickly. He was very upset in the beginning, and then whatever deal they cut behind the scenes, I'm sure, is a really good one. And maybe a lot of it had to do with some of the things that Trudeau has put in place. And
well, they made a deal with China, because China's getting that oil now instead of us.
Yeah, well, and I feel bad for the Canadian people living under his rule. I will tell you, he's probably one of the most authoritarian people that.
Well, there may not be many left pretty soon, because he's banned guns. So the people who aren't paying any attention to laws don't worry about banning of guns, because that's why they are criminals, outlaws. Can go around and start just killing people willy-nilly, because they'll have the guns, and then the armed citizens will be non-existent.
Yeah, I don't know how this is so difficult for people to understand that, once they start putting gun controls in place, you see what happened in Australia. Those people were locked down, and they're supposedly very similar to the U.S., but when you look at what happened during COVID in Australia versus here, yes, places like New York and California were really, really bad, but most of the states, if you look in the middle of the country, Georgia being one of them, we were still pretty, able to do what we wanted. I know that I was very rarely asked to put on a mask or anything like that, and I felt like my freedoms were more protected here than they were in places like California. So, but that's what happens when you start taking away people's ability to have a gun, because in California, I think it's near impossible to have one.
And then how about your ability to have a gas stove? So, I mean, this is getting so absolutely ridiculous. It's unbelievable. Ask any chef if they're going to be happy about not having a gas stove.
Well, there will be exemptions for the people that make their food.
Ah,
You see how this works.
yeah. Always, it reminds me of when they first came out with the laws on seat belts. You had to buckle your seatbelt, and somebody went in through the congressional parking lot and noticed that most of them had their seatbelts defeated. They were buckled,
Yep.
but back once upon a time you didn't have the shoulder strap.
Yep.
You just had the lap strap, and those were all buckled under the seat so that they wouldn't have to buckle their seatbelt. But yet they wanted you to.
Well, the funny thing is that's what my dad always says. He's like, it all started with seatbelts. and I mean, he's not wrong. Like
No.
when you look at it.
I don't like laws that protect you from yourself. If you don't want to wear your seatbelt, if you want to go through the windshield in a car accident, that's your prerogative.
Well, and they're saying that there's a 50-50 chance. I mean, police officers have the ability to decide if they want to wear one or not. They're not required to buckle.
And it's like everything else. They tell us, don't look at your phone, don't have your phone, don't use your phone, don't touch your phone while you're driving. And the police have a laptop. They have the phones. They have the two-way radio.
They have the little light switches that they play with.
Oh man,
They have a lot of bells and whistles on those cars.
There's a lot of stuff.
Yes.
Not objecting to that.
No.
But at the same time, I said, don't you touch your phone. Meanwhile, let me see here on the check this and see what the latest is from the police blotter last night before I came on duty.
Yep.
And by the way, let me check over here to see what colleague needs me down the street for the latest convenience store robbery.
They also have their speed guns that they have too. So I mean,
Yeah,
they have lots of toys, lots of things to be distracted with. But I do think that it's interesting that we make laws but then don't enforce them in certain situations. And I think if we're going to do that, just don't make the law.
And of course, it's sometimes up to the cop's discretion. On many occasions, I've been stopped. I said, okay, I'm going to let you go this time, but be careful, more careful in the future. Yes, sir. I'm out of here. Okay.
Yep.
Or sometimes, yes, ma'am. I didn't mean to be sexist about that.
Oh my goodness, I wasn't offended. So there's
good.
that.
Glad to hear that. But some people were at Effingham County High School in the Effingham County school system. We've got some students who are suing because they can't wear Black Lives Matter T-shirts. So we'll be talking about that and more coming up here on Get Real America.
We'll be right back.
Mm-hmm.
Well,
we're going to put up a fence here so you can so you won't be able to see us here
yeah.
during the commercial break because fences, even though
At Get Real America, we'd like to thank the South.
When you're looking to buy a business or sell a business, the experts at Best Business Brokers have you covered. Whether you're ready to cash in on your years of hard work or you're taking that first step in buying a business of your own, they're here to guide you through the process and make sure you get the best outcome possible. By having Best Business Brokers assist you when you buy a business or sell a business, they handle the legwork of the intricate process. This ensures a smooth transition of ownership, allowing you to get to work immediately or receive payment for your business as soon as possible. With base operations in Savannah and Charleston, they service all of Georgia and South Carolina. If you're considering starting a business here, the mild winters and 5-tiered economic areas make these the perfect places to do so. If you're ready to buy a business or sell a business, then you're ready to contact Best Business Brokers. Visit their website at b3brokers.com or call at 912-349-0940.
Welcome back to Get Real America.
I'm Bill Edwards.
I'm Brittany Brown.
Glad you could join us. Here it is, Hump Day. As we zip right along, we're in double digits for the month of January and, of course, the new year 2023.
Yes, and what a good year I hope it is here in Savannah. We have a new school board president starting today. We also have a new chief of police.
Hopefully we'll have a new district attorney here in the next year, but it's going to be at least a couple of years, so it is a little bit in the distance. But Mayor Van Johnson of Savannah says he wants to make it very clear that the city of Savannah has no say in eventually closing City Market at midnight. So they put up a fence at City Market now.
Yep.
And they want to start closing at midnight because they want to be family friendly. You can be family friendly at 3 o'clock in the morning too if you want to. All you have to do is, have no crime, or at least a crime under control of sorts. And a young man who wants to be the district attorney has thrown his hat into the ring is Anthony Burton. We've talked to him before. He says the current DA that we have is not doing her job, unless, of course, you want to say that she's pro-crime.
Yes.
It's once again a pleasure to be talking with Anthony Burton. He is running for district attorney, a prominent attorney here in Savannah. And one of the things that we have discussed before, Anthony, one of the reasons that you have thrown your hat into the ring, as it were, is that all of this woke culture that we're in now, we have a district attorney who doesn't seem to think that crime is such a big problem.
No. One of the things I was talking about earlier is the WTOC news article that had come out about all of the murders that she's been giving plea deals to. I was actually really excited when I saw that article had come out, because I thought, okay, maybe people are paying attention. Maybe she's not going to be able to get away with this. But it hasn't stopped her at all. I actually went to court 2 Fridays ago, and under Meg, there was a case that was so heinous that they had set it up to be a death penalty case. So these individuals, they were gang members.
And the Meg you're referring to is Meg Heap, the former
Meg Heap, my
attorney.
former boss. Yes, sir.
Yeah.
So these individuals had broken into this guy's house. I think they had heard a rumor that he kept cash under his mattress or something. He was an older gentleman. Well, what they didn't expect is he was going to be armed, and he shot back. And one of them ended up having to get a coloscopy back, and I think he killed another one of the gang members. Well, the one with the gunshot is now in jail and starts calling all of his gang members, ignoring the part of every jail phone call where it says that this call will be monitored and recorded for future use, and tells his other gang members, I shouldn't have to go to street justice. It's not fair. But if he were to disappear, no case. So, and the other gang members, they go, oh, I hear you. We'll make sure that he's not going to show up to court. And they go back to his house and they execute him. They set up a hit from jail and executed the witness so we wouldn't be able to testify. Very clear cut, very evil. And those facts rise up to Meg Heap, the former district attorney, seeking the death penalty. Well, Shalina just does not believe that murder is a crime, I guess. So she has actually taken those cases, removed the death penalty, and I watched last week as one of them had their case reduced down to manslaughter. And he was given 20-10, which means it's a 20-year sentence, but 10 will be served in prison and 10 will be on probation. And he'll be out soon. So this was a 4-year-old case. It sat there for a bit because of COVID, and they weren't, moving things along. But he's got 4 years credit, and they did not charge it as a non-parolable offense. So he'll be out in 2 or 3 years back out on the street with everyone else. Someone who set up an assassination back out on the street.
Sometimes I wonder, Anthony, what is the end game here? That this, if the streets are dangerous, they're dangerous for everybody, and that includes these idiots who are paroling these people. I remember a television episode some years back about this professor of anatomy was paying these bad guys to kill people so he could have cadavers, and then that worked out fine for him for a while until they brought his daughter in one night, and so this things like this can backfire on you.
So I oftentimes get asked, why is Shalina doing this? What is the goal? And the best thing that I can think of is that she ran on the entire system is broken, it can't be fixed. And I think that she...
So she's going to break it some more?
Self-fulfilling prophecy. For sure, after COVID, the system was bent. But it wasn't broken. But under her, with there being 17 plus vacancies in the office and entire courtrooms without prosecutors assigned to them, with the explosion of cases because everyone is in court, no one can go and take the time to investigate or accuse, indict cases, that huge explosion, the different policies that are just disastrous for releasing murderers out back onto the street. I think she was her own self-fulfilling prophecy that the system wasn't broken, but she's going to break it.
Mm-hmm.
And if that is her goal, she's doing an outstanding job.
Well, obviously. But what is that? How does that help the community? I mean, what is it? Doesn't she have to live here? I mean, doesn't she live here in the community?
She lives here. She lives down at the East Wharf. You get a gated community and that kind of stuff. But what we find when it comes to this type of crime is that you'll have it in certain small places, and it's usually by a socioeconomic kind of division. You're not having gang wars in the landings. But
could be a matter of time.
But it ends up, you slowly have it expand while there's no repercussions or anything. And what you'll find is maybe there's not the shootings in the landings or Dutch Island, but what they just had not too long ago was a large rash of car break-ins looking for guns. That's what they're almost always looking for when they're breaking into cars, is looking for guns.
Exactly.
And so they're going to take that back, and they're going to take it to their community, and that war zone is going to expand, and before you know it, the entire city has become a war zone.
Yeah, I was just going to say, because it seems to me, it's interesting about the landings or Dutch Island. If I was a bad guy and wanted to get in, I wouldn't have any trouble getting past the gate, because I'd shoot the guy at the gate or whatever and just drive on in. It's not like there's a big barrier up there or something like we used to have on the southern border.
No, and you wouldn't even have to do something as extreme as shoot the guard. You can just
drive in,
walk around.
Yeah.
The gates are up for the cars that come through, but I'm not giving anyone ideas or anything, but if someone wants to get in there, and those are the types of neighborhoods where everyone feels safe here. The doors are unlocked at night. I can go through, hit 100 cars, maybe find 5-10 guns, take this back and to the gang, and now we can have a shootout with the other gang. So it affects everyone. Even if you think that you're behind a gated community, even if you think that there's not going to be any type of detriment to you because crimes happen on that side of town or whatever, it'll come for you eventually.
Well, I know large oaks from small acorns grow. How's the campaign? You have thrown your hat into the ring to be DA. So how are things going now? Because we're still, a year and a half, 2 years out?
We're about a little under 2 years.
Yeah.
So it's pretty early, but I've gone ahead and announced that I've gotten some really good feedback from a lot of people. A lot of good feedback from the law enforcement, which just thrills me. One of the things that I've also noticed under Shalina is she has done more for the quote-unquote defund the police movement than any other politician around Chatham County. And it's not from a defund perspective, it's from a demoralization perspective. So you have these officers that have dedicated their lives and their careers to protecting their community, for doing what's right, and they're making these arrests. They're, in many instances, risking their life to make these arrests, and the individuals are being released. On technicalities, a lot of times, like we've had very violent armed robbers. We have one guy that was wanted in Ohio for an armed robbery, escaped, came down here to Savannah, committed an armed robbery, and because they did not indict it within the 90-day window, he had to get a bond. This is an officer who risked his life to stop a known dangerous armed criminal, and that guy's back out on the street because of a technicality. That's demoralizing, and that's why you're seeing a lot of people leaving Savannah Police Department.
Yeah. It is pathetic what's going on. What do you, and Anthony, this isn't meant to be racial or anything, but you'll find that the so-called black community, I'm quoting here with my fingers, will vote for the black candidate no matter what. And have you talked about going into the belly of the beast to go into these, I think one of the reasons that Donald Trump did so well with black voters is that for the first time he went into these churches where all the black candidates always campaigned, but the Republican candidate never darkened the door, so to speak.
So one of the reasons I wanted to get started early is because I want to go to everything. I want to do everything. I want everyone to see my face. I want to speak with everyone, and I think getting started this early will allow me to do that. But I have heard that critique before, and it's just not what I have been seeing since I've come out and said that I was going to run.
Good.
So,
and let me just add as a caveat there is that because one of the things that it is this is cutting off your nose to spite your face, because it affects the black community more. Crime affects the black community more than it does many times of the so-called white community.
So Shalina likes to say that the people that are being locked up for the murders are disproportionately black. Whoever is committing the murder, who needs to go to prison.
Exactly.
I want to look at who is the group that is being murdered. And she is letting individuals from the African American community be murdered at a much higher rate than white individuals in Chatham County. So I think that she should stop worrying about who's going to prison for their own actions and start thinking about who is dying for no fault of their own and protect those people. That's what the job of law enforcement is. That's what the job of a district attorney is to protect people, not to worry about some type of graph or whatever about who is going to prison at what rate or anything like that. If you do the crime, you do the time. That's a very old saying. It's never been you do the crime, you do the time, unless we've had too many people from this group end up having to do the time. Then we'll have to go back and make sure more of these people go and do this time. And it's
so we've taken the blindfold off Lady Justice. Is that the deal?
That's, if you look at the cases that she has given plea deals to, the just ridiculous murders brought down to manslaughter. They're all individuals who are African American and have killed African Americans.
Yeah, I mean, it's. Have you heard that frustration from blacks that you've talked to?
Yes.
So things are bad here, and we need to get. Most of the ones that I talked to said we need more police. We need more funding of the police. We need more police around here.
I had a pretty funny interaction at the gym not too long ago. And, I was a prosecutor for about 10 years. So when someone comes up and they go, "Are you Anthony?" I go, yeah, maybe. But I'm at the gym and an African-American guy comes up and he goes, "Are you Anthony Burton?" And I go, "Yeah." He goes, will you promise me that if you get in office, you won't do the same BS this woman is doing? And I shook his hand and I said, I absolutely promise you that. Mm-hmm. I said, you can help me make sure that you tell all of your friends, your family, anyone that you can, that I'm not going to be doing this. We're going to be putting criminals in prison, and we're not going to be wasting a bunch of time on the little piddly cases. We're going to be working on getting violence taken care of in this city. We're going to worry about taking violent predators off the streets. And, I just thought that was a great interaction, especially just because, the prosecutor mindset, this is not going to go well.
So how do people find out more about you and sort of jump on the bandwagon, as it were?
So I'm very active on Facebook. Elect Anthony Burton, Chatham County District Attorney. Anyone is welcome to email me, electaburton@gmail.com. And if you want to talk to me, you can have my number, 912-692-5777.
All right. Well, good luck. Stay in touch with us on the campaign trail, and we'll try to get Selena in here and see if she can answer a few questions for us, too. So
good luck.
Yeah. Well, she was generous enough to give 10 minutes to WTOC.
She cut it short after they started asking some questions that weren't flattering.
I'll be darned. Oh, what a surprise. That was a good series, by the way. Congratulations to them. Yeah, I was hoping something was going to be done by then. I thought maybe an impeachment movement might get started, but that's the world I live in. All right. It's Get Real America. We'll be back.
At Get Real America, we want to promote your business to our conservative audience.
I don't think it's an accident that I ended up writing music for a living, because I think I lived in a house where I saw how deeply it affected everyone in the house. And just how much everyone defined themselves by the music they listened to.
Music as a framework, I think, gave my parents my identity from a young age. You can like any music that you want if it makes you feel happy. And now when I hear certain songs, I think of them, and I think of them in their happiest state, and it makes me happy.
If they seem like they're having trouble talking about something, I try to tell them about a time when I felt something similar.
Whatever the issue was, we would tell them the pros and cons and how important it was that they had come to us, because we could always help them. I think the real important point, we always told them, no matter what you do, no matter what happens, we will help you through it no matter what it is.
At Get Real America, we want to make sure that the real story gets out, and you can help us as a sponsor or as an advertiser to make sure that that word does get out to the community.
Be a sponsor and support your local community here at Get Real America. Good morning and welcome back to Get Real America.
Glad you're aboard with us here this morning. I'm Bill Edwards.
I'm Brittany Brown.
Glad to have you with us. But 6 days before the midterm elections, classified documents from then Vice President Biden suddenly appeared. They were discovered and removed from his personal office. And so we're looking forward to making sure that the Department of Justice is really going to hop on the bandwagon on this. Why didn't we learn about this before the election?
Oh, because it would have hurt the midterms even further.
That's right.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I'll be darned. So the president, then vice president, who said that having classified documents down at Mar-a-Lago that were not locked up, which is not the case, so this was all staged by the FBI, said that it was irresponsible.
Well, and I want to correct you. He was not the vice president at the time. He was the former vice president at the time he was in that office. Mm-hmm. So... and also, I don't believe, correct me if I'm wrong, I think you might be a little bit more up to date on the rules here, but I don't believe that the vice president has any authority to declassify anything.
He does not.
Okay, so it's just the president?
Only the president.
Which Donald Trump was a president of the United States.
Yeah.
Joe Biden was not, just to be clear here.
At that time, yeah. Why are we finding out about this just now? And the media circling the wagons on this because they have to defend their hypocrisy.
Well, it makes you wonder who allowed this stuff to be released even at this time, especially when Joe Biden just released that he was going to be prepping for his 2024 run for president.
Unfortunately. But Merrick Garland, the so-called Attorney General of the United States, finally has appointed a special prosecutor, has he, or investigator?
He has, and it's actually a Trump prosecutor, interestingly enough.
Which shouldn't make any difference because, as you know, the Chief Justice John Roberts has said it's not an Obama-appointed judge. It's not a Trump-appointed judge. They're just judges.
It makes a huge difference. We've seen that in all of these cases.
Yeah. So I'm sure that he probably did that for optics as much as anything else.
Oh, definitely.
Who he was going to see to oversee this. So the president told Scott Pelley on the communist broadcast system of the 60 Minutes back in September, this was irresponsible for Donald Trump to have had all these secret documents. Whereas at Mar-a-Lago, not only were these things were under lock and key, and we know that for a fact, but there's Secret Service all over the place down there. So these documents couldn't have gotten out. The pictures that you saw were taken by the FBI after they got the documents out of the locked closet or wherever the hell they were.
Yes, but Joe Biden did have a lot to say about. Let's be honest. Whatever he says, it's really hard to even comprehend the words coming out of his mouth. But he did have something to say about these classified documents that were found at the university he supposedly taught at.
Yeah, let's just hear.
When my lawyers were clearing out my office at the University of Pennsylvania, they set up an office for me, secure office in the Capitol. The 4 years after being vice president, I was a professor at Penn. They found some documents in a box in a locked cabinet, or at least a closet. And as soon as they did, they realized there were several classified documents in that box. And they did what they should have done. They immediately called the archives, turned them over to the archives, and I was briefed about this discovery and surprised to learn that there were any government records that were taken there to that office. But I don't know what's in the documents. My lawyers have not suggested I ask what documents they were. I've turned over the boxes. They've turned over the boxes to the archives, and we're cooperating fully with the review, and which I hope will be finished soon, and there'll be more detail at that time. The first question now I forgot. Your first question related to?
I asked if the.
I'm only joking.
He's only joking. Yes, sirree. And I'm not kidding about this. Yeah, of course he is. This is a guy, and you notice he was reading that?
Yes, he was. He was very careful in what he said because he knows that he can definitely be held accountable, and he's in the same boat as Donald Trump. So tread lightly here, Mr. Biden.
Yeah. So, but certainly we had Morning Joke, and of course Joyless Behar and her Confederates all saying, and Don Lemon from the Communist News Network. We're all saying, oh, that this is going to be politicized, by the right, and they don't have anything to do with each other. Yeah, they do. This is extremely serious, and these things were not secured, and especially at the University of Pennsylvania now, where what were they doing there in the first place?
Well, Joe Biden had an office there because he was a professor. But from what I understand, he never taught a class. But who am I?
Sounds like most of his resume, doesn't it?
Yeah. Well, and people are mad at the Santos person for all the lies that he told, which I agree they are terrible. Yeah. However, it's like you don't get to come at Santos when you guys are promoting a guy that's lied most of his career and continues to lie. He still tells the same stories that have been found to be untrue, and he still tells them. And you've still got Elizabeth Warren, aka Liar Watha, who came up and said, how did she get her job at Harvard? Because she had high cheekbones, so she was a Native American. And then you had Richard Blooming Idiot, who just got, unfortunately, the people of Connecticut decided to reelect this moron as a senator, who said that he was in Vietnam, another stolen valor story. Turns out he wasn't in Vietnam. Well, and I think that we have it on both sides. We have liars on both sides.
Exactly.
But the fact that you want to choose which people you call out, I'm willing to call out Santos. I think what he has said and what he has done is wrong.
Selective outrage is not part of our game here.
No, but I will tell you, I'm willing to take the liar as long as he's voting for Republican values while he's in that seat. We'll see what happens. I know that there was some ethics paperwork filed on him this week by the Democrats, which, is laughable considering that they have Adam Schiff and Chuck Schumer on their team. I mean, and
let's
Swalwell.
not forget Eric Swalwell.
Yeah.
They're getting ready to take him off. As he is still going bang bang with fang fang. Is when sleeping with a Chinese spy. You would think that would have something, or Dianne Feinstein, who had for 20 years had a chauffeur who was a member of the Communist Chinese Party. Nothing to see here, folks.
Yes, and we're willing to call out Republicans just as much as Democrats. However,
Exactly.
I will say that Democrats have been playing the game of doing things and then blaming Republicans for what they're doing. Although Santos, he looks like a Democrat at this point with all the lies he's told.
Yeah, he could qualify as a Democrat with all the lies he's told.
Yes.
So best of both worlds, so to speak.
Yes, and really quick, going back to the Anthony Burton story, our friend Lizzie Warren is active this morning, and she says Anthony is going to have a good ground game to get out the vote, and we are definitely hoping that happens for him, because I do know that he is doing a lot of events right now, but it's going to be very important for someone like Anthony to win that DA seat.
And like I said, he's got, and he has, but going to the belly of the beast, he's going to have demand going into these black churches and all that have these, that supposedly is supposed to be separation of church and state and all that stuff. But doesn't seem to meet with a black church. They do these campaigns all the time, especially for Democrats. But one of the reasons, as we had mentioned to Anthony, that Donald Trump did so well is that he did do that. I kept saying, when George Bush was right, I said, why don't you go into the black community? Why don't you ask, to go into these churches and talk to these people and tell them what the real story is? Because you had a situation like that just recently. You talked to a lady who thought that we ought to have rent control.
Oh, yes. So I spoke to someone that was like, we need to do rent control. People can't afford the housing here. And it's, if you have rent control, people still own those buildings and own those houses. And when property taxes go up, when you have all these investors buying these houses at very high prices, that increases the property tax. And so they have to eat that cost. And if we have rent control, it really puts those people that have rental properties in a real bind. And so, I would love to tell you that there's an easy answer, but there's not. It's very expensive to live in Savannah right now.
Well, my wife does property management and has done it for years. And one of the things that, the mistake that a lot of renters make is that they think that we own that property. She works for the owners. The owners own that property, except many times they don't either. The bank owns the property. They've gotten loans to pay for. So when somebody pays the rent, when the owners get that money, they have to make a payment to the bank to keep that place open. So if you go to rent control and they can't make those payments anymore because it's gotten out of control and beyond their ability to make that, because they've done this, they've gotten these properties as an investment as much as anything, and if they can't make the payments to the bank, so you're actually again cutting off your nose to spite your face. We've had people that we've had to evict and said, I'm sorry, the owner has defaulted on his loan and he can't do that property anymore. So you're going to have to move. Well, how did that happen? Well, we couldn't go up on the rent, so there you go.
Well, and then you have investors coming in and buying them, and then you're in the same situation. It's not resolving the situation by rent control. We have to figure out another solution.
Something always fills the vacuum.
Yes, absolutely. And after this, we will be discussing more about things going on in Savannah. One of them, a local restaurant that's closing that I know our producer is very sad about, coming up next. Get in touch with us at info@grenewsmedia.com, or you can give us a call at 912-376-9295. Welcome back to Get Real America.
We're glad you're here on a Wednesday morning, and we're about to lament the passing of another iconic restaurant in town. We've had 3 or 4 over the last 4 or 5 years that have closed. One of them, Johnny Harris, Harris's that had been open for over 90 years, closed, and the building's been razed, and I just get nauseated every time I go by that empty field to see a place where I was raised on Johnny Harris barbecue and all the great meals and the great times that I had there at that marvelous facility that I'm sorry we didn't keep open. We had another one, Pearl's Saltwater Grill, that burned to the ground, one of the most beautiful venues you can possibly imagine. In fact, about 5 or 6 years ago in like Travel Host magazine, it was rated, they did the top 10 venues of restaurants in America, and they were like number 7. That burned and probably will not be replaced because of all the ordinances we have now, because it was right on the water. So there are all sorts of water ordinances now because we might kill a fiddler crab or something rebuilding the place. So that's gone by the wayside. That's belongs to history, and we've also had some others, including one that we like to
visit quite frequently, which is near kind of where our studio is, and that would be Holland House. It's very sad that these restaurants, what happens is a lot of the land gets bought up, and
Exactly.
it really changes the ability for the restaurant to be profitable and things like that. So it's very unfortunate. We have a quick story here from WJCL on the closing of Holland House.
Historic Holland House, a wholesale cooking restaurant in Savannah, is closing.
And as our Michelle Jackson finds out, she discovers how restaurant regulars are dealing with it.
As the bell rings outside the Holland House, regulars say they are disappointed that this is its last month of business here.
My doctor's office is right around the corner, and it's become the routine to come to the Holland House after I have the visit at the doctor's office.
The Holland House, which has been open for around 50 years, will close its doors on Friday, January 27th.
The last Tuesday I came in here, it was chicken fried steak. I think today it'll be fried chicken. I'm looking forward to it, and I'm really sad that Holland House is closing. Oh my, it's an institution here in Savannah, and I don't know why, but they're closing.
The Holland House owner, Chris Sturgis, says the decision to close this location has been complicated between limited parking spaces, the tight kitchen in the back, finding staff, and many more challenges.
I've looked over the past 6 months different ways to expand the business or continue the business or keep it alive, and even some really kind of out-the-box thinking. And all of it requires a lot on the staff that's here and myself, and it's tough. It's tough to find people also to help out. Hiring is a real bear.
Although this location will be closing soon, a new place could be on the horizon.
I have a lot of people who have come up and they've, written down commercial spaces that would be logical for us to maybe move to. I've inquired on a couple.
As customers enjoy this last month of the Holland House, many of them said it'll be hard to find this type of environment anywhere else. In Savannah, I'm Michelle Jackson, WJCL 22 News.
I will say I enjoy the Holland House. It probably has some of the best fried chicken in Savannah.
Oh, that's terrific, and just good old Southern cooking, and it's what we sometimes refer to even as comfort food, but it is just very, very tasty, and it's a great atmosphere, and it's a shame to lose something like this. And what the owner said there was, what we're seeing all over. You don't go anywhere now without seeing, we're hiring signs, whether it's Subway, whether it's Burger King, Waffle House, or one of the big restaurants downtown. It's just sad that people don't want to go to work anymore when the government pays you to stay home.
Yeah, but they still also want to enjoy restaurants, but there's no one working. So it's it hasn't slowed down as much as you would have thought with the economy, if I'm being honest. Our producer and I were actually in Holland House yesterday, and it was packed. I mean, and those ladies, they work hard.
Oh yeah.
And the service there has always been wonderful. The gals that work there have been wonderful, and it's really hard to find good help and people that we'll also be nice to the customers, right? Like, when's the last time that you were in a restaurant and got terrible customer service? I will say it's more often than not that I get that now versus the other.
Well, and it's if you know anything about restaurants, if you do any cooking, as I do, we have. It's not just the meal itself. It's not just the hours that the place is open. If you're cooking a meal, you realize that some things have to be prepared hours in advance. So if you're there cooking lunch, you might be there at 5 o'clock in the morning. Just like at bakeries, you go in, you see all these fresh baked goods that you see behind the glass shelves, and those things are fresh because somebody started cooking those things at midnight. So the bakers live on the opposite side of the clock for the most part. They're cooking, and donuts are made at like 3 o'clock in the morning, and that's how they are fresh when you get there at 6 o'clock in the morning. So there's more than just being open those hours. You have to prepare this food, and then when it's over, you have to clean up the place. You have to clean all the dishes. You have to make sure that all the food is taken care of. The sinks are wiped off, and the counters and everything else for sanitation purposes. So it's not just the hours that the restaurant itself is open. It's all the hours that you have to put in before and after to make sure that the restaurant can stay open. And people just don't see that.
No, and it is a challenge. And I'm sad to see another restaurant close, especially with it being so iconic in Savannah, and also it's more of a hometown. It's not a tourist restaurant. It is very much people from Savannah that eat there, and it's very sad to see these restaurants continue to go out of business, as well as a lot of other local businesses, Bill. They can't get employees, and with some of these retail stores, when people are stealing half your inventory, what do you do?
Yeah, there was a story made on Fox and Friends this morning of a lady that owned a jewelry store, and I didn't catch where it was from. I think it was in Chicago or something, but she buzzed what she thought was a potential customer in, and he just held the door open for 5 of his buddies who came in with hammers, and within 1 minute they stole $2 million worth of jewelry. And you don't stay in business very long when that happens. My wife and I were even at Dick's Sporting Goods a couple of years ago when 2 young miscreants grabbed a bunch of the leather jackets, and they know that those doors will open. You don't have to wait for the sliding glass door to open. It's designed now so that you hit it and it automatically just flaps open for you. And they go running out with probably $10,000 or $15,000 worth of leather jackets or more. And we were like, did that really happen? So, well, they know when the guards are here. They only could hire security guards for like maybe 2 or 3 days a week. And they said, and I said, and this happens all the time. We said, this happens all the time? Yeah, it does.
Well, and that's what happens when we don't have consequences for people's actions.
And when there are no consequences, we try to do it here in Savannah, but we've got as we mentioned earlier in the show, we've got a new DA that doesn't want to enforce the law.
Yeah, and I mean, her election is coming up in 2024, so I'm hoping that there's possibility that because she is not doing her job as the district attorney here in Chatham County,
like they did in San Francisco.
Yes, I'm hoping that we're seeing something like that. Yeah. We don't have a law here in Georgia that we're allowed to do that. It has to come from the state, her removal process.
Well, the legislature's in session right now. Maybe we could talk to some of our legislators and say, how about we come up with that? It's just like a couple of the things that I've asked some of our legislators to do. It seems like we can't do anything about drunk driving. That every time you turn around, some little kid is killed in a car accident, or some young mom and something, and we find out that the person who hit them, not only did they get out without a scratch, that always bothers me, but the fact that they had been arrested 8 or 10 times previously on drunk driving and didn't have their license in the first place. So taking the license away is not going to do the job. It's just like a traffic light. It doesn't stop cars. It has the law behind it, but it won't stop a car. So people can run a red light, and that's sometimes when we see these fatal accidents or serious accidents occur. And when you don't have enforcement, what do you do? And I've said, well, what could we possibly do to get these drunk drivers off the streets besides incarcerating them for the rest of their lives? Tennessee has come up with a pretty good plan. If you are if you are intoxicated in a car accident and you kill a young mom or dad or both, and you are responsible for child support for the rest of those until their children turn 18. Pretty good. I mentioned that to one of our local legislators here, Ron Stevens, and he said he would introduce that legislation in this session. So that's one of the things I'd like him to do. And Brittany, the other one I'd like to do, you've seen these home title lock commercials that said somebody could go in, they can get an affidavit about your house, say that they purchased your house, put their signature on it, and in one signature, one piece of paper, and they can own your house because they pretend to be you, and then they can take loans out on that, and you're never notified until all of a sudden the people come to take away, or the new tenants arrive at your house to move in, and the sheriff comes along and says, you're out of here because you don't own this house anymore. We need to do something about that. It shouldn't be that easy. It shouldn't be one piece of paper, and people should be able to show other signs of identification to say that that's actually you. So that's a couple of things that I would like to see kind of our legislative session this term.
Yeah, well, and I think the onus should be on the bank. You're responsible for the money. It's not my problem that you didn't do your due diligence as a bank. Why is that the homeowner's responsibility? If a bank is loaning out that, it's on them.
It's not necessarily the bank, but it's also the county or wherever the records are kept for your house, or you're owning the property. So you can just come in and say, here's and this one of the city managers that they interviewed on the home title lock commercial said, if somebody comes in and show me this affidavit, and I try to tell them that it's false, he said, that's against the law for me, and I could get arrested for accusing this guy of being somebody else.
Well, I don't think the onus should be on the homeowner.
I don't either.
I think that there is some other accountability that needs to happen, and the fact that
that's why I won that legislation.
Yep. So and for me, I think that there needs to be some election integrity bills and also some bills to protect our children in the schools. There is a mental health bill that's coming out that is not a very good bill. There is some verbiage in there that I think can be weaponized against people. So I'm hoping that there are some changes to that legislation before it's passed. So we'll continue to talk about what bills we are seeing coming out of this legislative session. They just started on Monday. I believe the Republicans have not dropped any legislation of their own. We've only seen the Democratic bills, which are atrocious bills. Mm-hmm. So more to come on legislation here in Georgia.
It's atrocious. Yeah, that's you can take that to the bank and talk to them there about that. All right, that's going to wrap it up for us here on this Wednesday. We'll be back for the Thursday edition tomorrow. Remember, we don't need more electric cars, any more electric chairs, and
make sure you attend the school board meeting today. It's Roger Moss's first one. He is the new president.
It goes 2 o'clock. You don't have anything else to do you?
Yeah. I mean, it's a hard time, but please make it out there if you can. And we will see you guys tomorrow with some highlights from that.
Yeah, see you then.